good evening, depending on your location. This is the 61st edition of Leadership Talk with Adegoke. I'm so privileged to have with me Karen Margaret from Melbourne, Australia, and it's going to be an awesome session. How are you today, my friend?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for this invitation to talk about something I'm very passionate about. It's going to be great.
Awesome. How's the weather in Melbourne?
Oh, it's typical Melbourne weather. It's raining one minute, sunshine the next, and windy, and you don't know whether you're coming or going. It's Melbourne.
Awesome. Thank you for adapting. That's the spirit of leadership. So tell us, who is Karen?
Karen is first and foremost a wife and mother.
Okay.
Close to my heart is my relationships, those deep and meaningful things that are incredibly important to me.
Okay.
My husband is Nigerian, so I consider Nigeria my sister country. It's very, very close to my heart. And I am an emotional intelligence coach and consultant.
Awesome.
So I specialize in leading organizations to care and collaborate and communicate with emotional intelligence. And we do that through different types of programs.
Awesome. Good. Now, how did you get into leadership? What's been your leadership journey?
I don't know that anybody really knows how they get into leadership. I was, if we go way back when to my first job in McDonald's, as a 10 to 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a really great training ground, and because of their systems and because of their processes and because it's all systemized, I think it's really a very, very good program. And that's where I got the first taste of training for me, because even though I was 15 or 16 and it was my first job, it was an entrance into leadership because I was invited to be a team leader and a trainer after only 9 months. Wow. So I got introduced to leadership really early on. I think there is a certain degree of my personality and my characteristics that exude a natural confidence for leadership. Certainly the ability to take on additional responsibilities. Okay. But I can't lie, it's been a very steep learning curve for sure.
Wow, I can relate with that. Leadership is a journey; it's not a destination. Wow, amazing. So, what's your definition of leadership?
I love this question because it's not something that's easy to answer. I think it's the ability to know oneself and to know how to inspire and get the best out of the people who are working with you. And that doesn't necessarily have to be in the workplace. That can be in your family. I lead by example, or sometimes not example, with my son. Okay. I lead with my friendships by example. I in a work environment, I think leadership is the opportunity to connect, to know and understand yourself, but also to be able to help others be their best selves. Okay. So I like the idea of transformational leadership. I like the idea that whomever is going to report to me is going to become a better version of themselves as a result of the work we do together, just as much as they lead me. I don't think leadership is one directional.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So you have situations where there's reverse mentorship?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, look, I love my camera seems to be going a bit pear-shaped right now. I'm not sure what's going on, but me and technology, we're not exactly friends at the moment.
Well, it's okay. Yeah, you're emotionally intelligent.
Oh, look, I wouldn't mix emotional intelligence and technology and me in the same. Not a chance. I just completed the publication of my first online course.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, that tested every part of my well-being and resilience and emotional intelligence, because it pushed me to the limit.
I know. I've been there. I've been there. Sometimes you're looking for the perfect video, the perfect statement, and it can be.
It's so frustrating. Just when technology won't do what it's supposed to do, and it seems easy on the outsides, and you've really got to breathe and respect that it is technology and it isn't, out to get you, but sometimes you just have to step away. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the nature of entrepreneurship, though, isn't it? It is. That you do need to be resilient, and you do need to have this ability to handle the discomfort of whatever you're doing, because if you're a creator, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's just an inevitable nature of creation. But this course is the first time where I've really tested that notion of what it means to be outside of my capabilities and also my comfort zone for creation.
Well done. Congratulations. I'm sure you still tell us a bit more about that,
I'd love to.
Of this interview. Now, I just want you to tell us what's the relationship between leadership and emotional intelligence?
Oh, it's such a strong relationship. So, look, let's just back up a second. Emotional intelligence is something we all have. It's not a case of, you do have it, you don't have it. Every single person has emotional intelligence. Okay. It's a case of how much or how little you use your emotional intelligence, and that's going to measure or determine your success in what you're achieving. And the other important thing to understand about emotional intelligence is that it's contextual. Okay. How you utilize your emotional intelligence is going to change given the situation. How you are at work and how you utilize your emotions at work is going to differ to how you do it at home versus the supermarket versus driving down the road and some nuff cuts you off. It's going to bring out a different part of you, and a lot of people misinterpret that and to think that, people who don't utilize their emotional intelligence skills have no emotional intelligence. As a broad sweeping statement, this person has no EQ. Well, that's wrong. It's simply that they don't know how to utilize certain attributes of their emotional intelligence to be successful in that. And they may not have, and it's highly likely they don't have, self-awareness. So they don't know what they don't know. And more often than not, we don't intentionally set out to do the wrong thing. Okay. Or unless you're a true sociopath, you don't set out to upset somebody. Yeah. So I think I've just forgotten your original question, but essentially...
what I'm just saying is that what's the relationship between leadership and emotional intelligence? I think you got it spot on,
Well, I mean, to answer that question more clearly, when you're leading other people, you're first and foremost leading yourself. Yeah. It's your ability to perceive yourself in any given situation, but assess and manage your emotions in order to get the best outcomes given the context. Okay. And whether that's through your degree of self-awareness or how you express yourself, your interpersonal relationships, even to how flexible you are with changing your mind. How do you tolerate stress? All of these different things come into what it means to be emotionally intelligent.
That's right. Awesome. Now, I just want to find out, self-awareness, self-regulation. Could you speak to that?
Sorry, say that again. I missed that.
Self-awareness.
Yep. And self-regulation?
Yeah, I mean, I know those are some of the components of emotional intelligence. I know there are two more. Can you speak to self-awareness as a leader?
So self-awareness is how you perceive yourself.
Okay.
How highly do you regard yourself?
Okay.
I love that that's not me this time.
No, that's me. It's my phone. Yeah.
I actually remembered to put my phone on silent for once.
Yeah.
So it's your self-regard. How do you feel about yourself?
Okay.
It's how aware are you of your emotions? Can you name them? Okay. Do you know what you're feeling in any given moment, positive or negative? Okay. Can you identify? Can you describe those feelings? That's self-awareness. Okay. Do you have that lens by which you understand the way you're being received by other people? Because there's perception, that which we perceive of ourselves, but there's also the way we're received, and it may not be the same thing.
All right.
So, and that's where reception comes in. How are we received? We know that our actions are our responsibility. But what we don't often realize is that our reactions to other people's actions are also our responsibility. It's not, if somebody says to you, oh, you made me feel this way.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I can't make you feel a particular way. I can do things and I can cause a reaction, and that's my responsibility. I've got to take responsibility for that cause and effect. But as the recipient of that behavior, you have a responsibility too, because your reactions are within your control. You don't have to necessarily respond in a negative way if I've done something to you.
Yeah.
That's not positive. Just as if somebody's been kind to you, you don't have to be reacting or responding in a way that's receiving that in a good way. But we don't take responsibility for this. We don't own our reactions.
Wow.
We don't say, okay, and that's a really, really core part of being a leader, is owning your shit. Excuse the language, but it's really what it is. Yeah. We were talking about authenticity before we came on air, and that's definitely a core part of being a good, strong leader, is that you have that ability to own your stuff, to be willing to apologize if an apology is required. And often we don't see that as part of emotional intelligence. Awesome. But it certainly is.
Awesome. If you just joined us, speaking with Karen Margaret from Melbourne, Australia, Leadership Talk with Adegoke, and this is the 61st episode, and we're looking at leadership and emotional intelligence. Leadership and emotional intelligence. It's been amazing, awesome. Well done, Karen. So I just want to now. Initially, I said talk to us about self-awareness and self-regulation, but we're still going to drill down a bit. Now, what's the consequence of a leader not having emotional intelligence as a tool?
Well, apart from the physical consequences, that is greater stress and an inability to handle life's challenges, in the workplace, you're going to have a far higher turnover.
Okay.
You're going to have ineffective communication.
Okay.
You're going to have a lot more low profitability for starters, because it's going to affect everything across the board. We know that emotionally intelligent leaders are far more successful in an organization than those that have high IQs, because they're able to feel their way into problems, and they're able to use I mean, decision-making is a core part of emotional intelligence, how you solve problems, certainly how flexible you are and how you test reality. How real or objective are you with the problems that are coming to you? Now, the consequences of that, think of the lack of innovation. Because if you lack flexibility skills, you might be stonewalling really great ideas from your team unknowingly.
Right. Absolutely.
You might come in and say, your team might go, hey, what about this? And you'll be like, no, that doesn't really work. But rather than explain it, rather than talk to it, and it doesn't work. So your team eventually learns, because it's all behavior.
Absolutely.
Okay, this leader, I can't approach them. I can't bring my ideas. They're not open-minded. So I'm not going to bother. And eventually they get tired of not being heard. They get tired of not being understood, and they go and find themselves another job. Why? Because as a manager, as a leader, you didn't take the time to hear your team, share insights, provide coaching. You certainly weren't authentic. You weren't approachable. All of these things, there's, to give you an example, one of my previous employments years ago was working with people in the technology industry. And it was challenging for me to convey or communicate because they were speaking a completely different language in terms of how they worked, but they also were very analytical, very logical. And in two instances, there was lower utilization or less understanding of their emotional intelligence. And so they weren't communicating effectively. And as their leader, as their manager, and certainly as the project manager on these particular jobs, I couldn't get cut through. And I had to find another way to talk, find another way to relate and build rapport in order to get the projects completed. Because I needed to learn how to speak tech. And that's part of your communication. That's part of your interpersonal relationship skills and what you need to do to build up working with different types of personalities.
Absolutely.
You can't expect them to change. I'm the one that has to work in with the way they are. Because if they're not being coached to improve, I don't have permission to seek a different form of communication from them. I just have to change myself to work with them.
To adapt,
Yeah, and these are the consequences. If you don't know that, if you don't know you have to change you and to adapt to their style, well, you're going to hit wall after wall after wall. And for what reason?
Frustrated,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so part of having a high utilization of emotional intelligence is knowing how to adapt yourself to another person's style in order for you to be able to persuade and influence and get the result you need from that person. That's a core part of leadership.
Awesome. Wow. A lot of powerful nuggets. Karen,
I didn't want you not to get me started.
This is
Anybody
so
who knows
good.
me well.
This is so good. Now,
before we go to the next question, can I just add something?
Okay.
Before we go to the next question, let me add something here, right? So within emotional intelligence, there's a couple of different composites or subscales of a particular model that I coach in that can also derail your leadership. Right? So if you don't have high utilization of impulse control, for example, that is, you don't hold back when you lose your at a situation.
Anger management.
Well, and this is it. Along with anger management, it's stress tolerance. How do you handle stress? And how does that stress affect the team? We talked before about problem solving, but also independence. If you as a leader rely on others before you're able to make a decision, that's going to slow down progress of the organization. Because people are relying on you to have the independence to make an informed decision. Now, that doesn't mean you don't go to other people for their opinion. But it doesn't stop you from making a decision because you rely on somebody to reassure you that you're making the right choice. So all of these derailers can prevent you from being an effective leader.
Wow.
Sorry, so I just wanted to add that because it was kind of really important to understand that these are core parts that you can work on and you can improve.
That's amazing. Well done. Now, what are the strategies you can, deploy when it comes to emotional intelligence as a leader?
Well, first and foremost,
just three things that you think,
look in the mirror. Look first at yourself and how you can improve yourself.
Look in the mirror.
Number one. Yeah, number one. If there's a problem, it's usually looking square at you. Focus on your relationships.
All right.
Focus on how you connect with people, the rapport you build with people, the relationships.
Okay.
And understand the way in which you manage challenges and stress.
All right.
Because that will largely also influence how you lead.
Right. Amazing. That's good. So look in the mirror, focus on relationships, and stress management skills is very important. Wow.
Yes, because underlying all of that is how you communicate.
Yeah.
So effective communication makes or breaks a leader.
That's right. There's a module that I'm licensed to teach on the John Maxwell platform. Being a John Maxwell certified coach. It's called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's not all the time you're communicating. Even to your children. You're not connecting.
Sometimes, especially not with my son. I mean, give the kid a break. He's 5, but he's very astute and he knows how to pull me up. Talk about accountability.
I can imagine you poured yourself out so much. It's giving you a run for your money.
Oh, without a doubt. Children always do, though. That's their job.
And sometimes they really want to push you and check where your threshold, really evaporates.
To be fair, I've become a better person as a result of becoming a mother. Because talking about that mirror,
have no choice. Yeah.
Oh, kids know how to turn that mirror on you, and you see yourself in a new light. I think that in many ways, I don't know if this sounds odd, but he is my mentor because he just purely by the nature of who he is, and my husband as well, they just teach me so much. But I think also because I've given them permission to teach me, and I guess that's a part of your self-development and your self-improvement is that you need to give permission to people to call you out.
Yeah, that's right.
And tell you some really hard truths. And anybody who's really close to me has that permission.
Yeah.
You don't get close to me unless you know how to tell me stuff that's really hard for me to hear.
That's so good.
But very good for me.
So good. Well done, Karen. So I got a few more questions. It's been awesome. If you just joined us, this is Leadership Talk with Adegoke, the 61st episode, and we're looking at leadership and emotional intelligence. I have with me Karen Margaret from Melbourne, Australia. Now, Karen, can you just tell us how easy is it for you to infuse emotional intelligence into the culture of an organization?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Okay. Emotional intelligence. How can you infuse it, into the culture of an organization?
Do you mean in terms of training and development?
Yeah, in terms of being part of the norms in an organization.
In order for a company to truly understand the degree by which their emotionally intelligence plays a role in their culture, which is, I think, what you're asking. We need to remember that the fish rots from the head. And if your leadership and management of your organization are not focused on, first and foremost, improving themselves and improving their relationships and improving how they manage stress, then it doesn't matter what happens in the rest of the organization. The culture will eventually just burn out and be one of a place where people just don't want to work anymore. Wow. Now, what I won't work with an organization. I won't come into an entry-level sort of part of a company unless I know the management is on board with improving the company, not just a particular department or team. Awesome. Now, for me, and I mean, every EQ coach or every coach has their own programs, their own style, their own approach. For me, I like to run an assessment and get a couple of different types of reports to better understand the individual level of emotional intelligence. So what are individuals in the organization bringing to the table? Okay. And that might be just an individual report if it's just a team member. If you're in a management role or a supervisory role, it usually involves some sort of 360-degree feedback where you're getting feedback from your manager, your peers who are of the equal level, as well as the people that report to you. And then as we go up, we want to look at, okay, well, what is your leadership capability? Okay. And again, at a 360, that's really great. But the most powerful report is when you're able to do a group report. And you can do this on multiple levels. So depending on the size of the organization or the departments, if you can do a group report with just one small team and their manager, and then you get the assessment of the entire group to understand the collective emotional intelligence. When you know and understand the collective emotional intelligence, then you can work on improving the overall culture. Awesome. You know, and that's incredibly powerful because it gives an informed, measured way of understanding what everyone's bringing to the table, strengths and their areas of improvement. And then we go into different types of training programs that are specific to what that individual and or what that group requires. Now, I like to work with leaders at the top of the organization one-on-one, right? Because, again, back to that fish rots from the head, they've really got to hone in and focus on what they've got to improve so it distills down the levels of the organization. It's not necessarily as required at a team member level unless they're on a career progression through to some sort of management or leadership role. And it's important to their professional development that they improve themselves. You know, going back to that technology analogy, you know, one of the team members was on the path to a management role, a key leadership role in this organization. And I was just like, it's not going to happen. Either I'll leave or they'll leave. And obviously I'm here because I left, because I just knew that it wasn't going to be the type of organization that would have the leadership that I would need, you know, and that would be important to the style that I like to work when I run a company. And for me, it was a career succession into leading an organization, yet I could see that the key players weren't willing. They didn't have the internal or the external motivation to improve, you know. So training and development in an organization is only effective if the management are fully in and they understand it's a long-term engagement. And secondly, that the individual team members actually want to improve, actually want to be better human beings and be better team players and get better results, and they are in the business for the success of the business. Wow. You know, if they're not, it doesn't matter what training I provide. It doesn't matter what coaching I provide. They're not going to do the work on themselves. So it's a waste of time. And it's really important that throughout that entire process, individuals understand they have to buy in. If you don't buy into your professional development, you're wasting everybody's time and money.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Karen. This is deep. This is deep stuff. Now, just two more questions. Now, you have a new course on Udemy on emotional intelligence.
Yes,
Can you just
I
share
do.
Yeah.
Practical Emotional Intelligence is what it's called, and I'm very, very proud of it. It's my very first online course.
Well done.
It's been a mission. One of my dearest friends went, "I can't believe you did this, and you're in your third trimester of your pregnancy." Yeah. And I'm like, look, if I didn't do it now, I don't think I would have been able to once the baby was here. So it's actually kept me sane and kept my brain energized during the most recent horrifically long lockdown here in Melbourne. So it's kept me sane. Now, the course itself is for beginners, but it's for professionals as well, in that I've designed it so that you are able to understand all of those key components of emotional intelligence that I've spoken to. So I'm accredited in a model called EQI 2.0, and what I've done is I've deconstructed it. So I've provided not only the scales of emotional intelligence that it's assessing and the subscales. So I've broken all of those down. There's 5 scales and 15 subscales, but I've also provided an understanding of, well, why do we have to improve ourselves? And why do we have to improve ourselves now? You know, and then I've looked at, well, what are the relationships between emotional intelligence and work performance, training and development, leadership, the things that we've talked to today, well-being and resiliency. And I go into detail with those, but I also provide reflection exercises for almost every single lesson, as well as a quiz. And with each of the scales, I provide an example debrief of a live report. So, you know, I mean, it's just called Jack Doe, but this person, I've taken their report, a 360 report, and I've provided my example of how I would approach debriefing this particular person. And that ideally gives the students an opportunity to understand, well, what would she be looking for as a coach when she first sees my report? And a debrief is essential when you receive a report like this, because it is very, very robust. It has a lot of information, and it can be very easily misinterpreted. And that's why it's essential that someone who's accredited with emotional intelligence in that particular model delivers or helps you understand your results. Because on the surface, this particular person's report looks really great. But then when you start unpacking the different scales and subscales, questions start to arise. You know, and in a 360 review report, you get to understand your blind spots, and you get to see where your allied strengths are and where there are opportunities that are reinforced. The importance of that is when you assess yourself, we have a tendency to potentially bias our answers by saying a more positive result than's actual.
Okay.
You know, but in a 360 assessment, because we're being assessed by the people who report to us, our manager and our peers, and sometimes other people, if we want to have exterior people we don't work with anymore help us, whatever it is, but it's 10 or more people who are assessing our emotional intelligence. And what that means is that, well, they're going to say something different. You might think you've got phenomenal flexibility skills, and that you can change your mind all the time, and that you are open-minded to whatever anybody says. And yet your team members go, that's not my experience of them. Your manager agrees with you, your peers agree with you because they're on your level or above. So you know, as a leader, what to show them. But your team, who experience you every single day, yeah, nah.
Awesome.
That's not a true picture.
Awesome. Wow. This has been a journey. Awesome.
I did warn you that I can talk.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's you're doing so well. I mean, you're adding so much value on Leadership Talk with Adegoke.
I hope so.
I just have a 2-in-1 question as we close, which is the first part is: do you have mentors? And secondly, how can our listeners reach you?
I absolutely have mentors. Like I said before, my husband, my son, my very, very close friends. And I consider a mentor, excuse me.
Yeah.
Pregnancy.
It's okay.
Oh, this baby's teaching me a lot. I look at mentorship perhaps a little bit different to most people, because I guess I'm not in career succession in that I'm climbing up a ladder. I've been running my business now for several years. So when I look for mentorship, I'm looking for people who have walked the path in business before me. And I want to learn from them. But also in behavioral sciences, like Elizabeth Gilbert and her book Big Magic, Brene Brown and everything she does, like just everything she does. If I could fangirl hardcore, don't ever let me meet her. Oh my God, I wouldn't be able to talk. And so, yeah, I'm definitely, and I mean, you mentioned before John Maxwell. I'm a huge fan of his work. His podcasts are incredible. And I love what I love about the Leadership podcast that he has is that it's actually his CEO that goes through and then dissects what he says and makes it relevant for the organization. And I guess that's what coming to your second question, where people can find me, I mean, obviously I'm on LinkedIn and I have my own website, caronmarguerite.com.
Okay.
But I'm also on Clubhouse, which is an audio-only social media app. And I've got a club on there called EQ in Action. And what I'm slowly building there is an audience who appreciate literally that, kind of taking what we've said today and putting it into action. And involved in that is interviews, it's conversations about the elements of emotional intelligence, but it's also an opportunity to get coaching from me in a live environment. So you're putting me on the spot, but it's brilliant because the last two rooms that I've hosted, the last two conversations, the first conversation, both are now available on replay.
Wow.
But the first one was on unconscious bias with an incredible woman named Bron Williams. Yeah, she's insane. Yeah. And then the second one was with Glenda Chi, and it was all about creativity. And yet the coaching that came at the end was sometimes completely off topic from creativity, and yet it gave the recipient incredible value to experience what it would be like to be coached by me.
Wow.
You know, and I love that kind of engagement. You know, so Clubhouse, LinkedIn, and my website, 3 main ways. I don't play on any other social media app. I can't do it. It's too much.
Well done, Karen.
And of course, there's my Udemy. So if anybody wants to do the course, just a little plug here, hit my profile up on LinkedIn, because there's a promo code there on my most recent post. So I think it's 25% off the cost of the course, and I hope that people get a lot of value from the investment in their professional development.
Wow, that's very kind of you, Karen. So you heard it from the lady who is massively adding value all over the world. A sister from another mother, Karen Margaret. She's showing up on Leadership Talk with Adegoke. We're so glad to have you. Your profile is massive, very deep, and it shows from the depths of this conversation that you really not just adding value, but good value. I just want to encourage you to do more and continue to do what you're doing. I just see a very bright future for you in this space, particularly emotional intelligence. And I'm so proud to have you on Leadership Talk with Adegoke. So, ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen,
so much.
Yeah, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And if you're watching the replay, please feel free to reach out to my friend Karen Margaret, Melbourne, Australia. She's adding value there, and she's also a global player. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I want to start, just as a side note, because I know, Nigeria is a home country to you.
Yeah.
I want to start working a lot more with Nigerian organizations, because ultimately that's where my family and I will relocate. So I really want to be able to help my fellow Nigerians to improve their organizations. So if you are based in Lagos in Nigeria, please hit me up, because I would love to be able to help you with your team, help you with you.
Wow, awesome. That's the kindest lady in the world. Thank you so much, Karen. So thank you, everyone, and have a beautiful day. Thank you.